The new version of Next.js 13 comes with very handy SEO tools such as Metadata API, dynamic OG image generation, sitemaps, and so on. In this video, we will cover everything you need to learn about Next.js 13 SEO to level up your SEO game. If you are ready, let's get started. Let's start with our project. I built a simple blog project for this video. It's a travel blog. You can see the posts like that, and you can go to categories page like this. And if we check our Lighthouse Score, as you can see, we have a pretty solid performance score. It's nearly 100, right? It's a pretty good score. But in terms of SEO, our score is not that good. It's like 77, right? We need to improve this score. We can make this score 100, right? So let me show you how we can get a full score for SEO with Next.js 13. Okay, let's start with the basic ones. First of all, we don't have any proper favicon or title at the moment. So let's start with fixing those. With the new version of Next.js 13, you don't have to create metadata for your favicon. You can simply put your favicon into your app directory like this. I already have my favicon in my project, and I can paste this favicon into the app directory like this, and I can change this name. Okay, cool. Now we can get rid of this favicon. As you can see, now we have our favicon, right? Okay, now let's fix the title issue. Before Next.js 13, we used to have the head.tsx file to create our title, our metadata, and so on. But now we don't need to create this separate file to create our metadata. We can use new Metadata API, which comes with the latest version of Next.js 13. So first, let's get rid of this file. Okay. And now in our page TSX, this is the home page, we can export our metadata like this. Export metadata like this. Sorry, const metadata. And we can put our title into our metadata like this. And if we refresh page, you can see that we have a proper title anymore. And also we can put our description like this. Explore the latest post from my travel blog like this. And let's check if we have this description in our source code. Description, yeah. As you can see, we have this meta, name, description, and the content like this. Okay, cool. But this is for static metadata. I mean that on our homepage, we can use these static texts for our title and description. But what about the dynamic page? What about the post page? How we can create these titles and descriptions dynamically? Okay, let me show you. To understand how we can create this dynamic metadata, first let's check the documentation of Next.js 13. As you can see here, we have two approaches. The first one is for static metadata, the one I showed you before, like this. And the second approach is exporting this async function called generate metadata. With this function, we can create these titles and descriptions and the other stuff dynamically in our server components. Be careful here. You can only export this function in server components, and also you cannot use both of them. You need to use static one or the dynamic one. Okay, cool. So let's copy this function and go to our post page like this. This is the server component for our dynamic page. And in this page, we can export this generate metadata function. And as you can see, it gets these params arguments. Where we get this params? This post page, this post route is a dynamic route. In this route, we create pages based on their slugs. So in this page, we need to first generate our static params. To generate our static params, we can use this function. This is just a helper function. You can get your static params from any function, any fetch function, or you can get from your CMS as well. And you need to return this slug param as an array. And in this page component, you can get this slug as param. And with this slug, you can get your post data like this. If you know your slug, you can search from your database and get your post data, right? And we will use this same approach in our generate metadata function, because in this function we can get our params, right? And this params has a type of params, and this is an object, and slug as a string like this. Okay, cool. Now we can create our function. Try and catch like this. And if we have error, we can return title not found like this, because if we cannot get our post data, it means that we cannot have the data in our page, right? So we don't have a page like this. Most probably we removed this page, so we need to return not found, and we can return this description as well. And in our try block, we can use this get post data function. Like this. And we need to provide our params.slug like this. And if we don't have post, we can return the same object like this. And if we have our post, we can return this title and the description. Okay, let's check if we have the title. Yeah, we have this title. And also we should have this description in our source code. We can check this. Oops, sorry. We can go to source code like this, and we can search for description. And as you can see, we have this description. And also let's try go to another post. Yeah, we have this data dynamically. Okay, sometimes we may want to use our brand name in our title, right? For example, our brand name is Explorer at the moment, so we can put this in every title. To make this happen, we can write like this. But this is too much work because we need to create this string in every root, right? So we need to find a proper way to create these kind of titles. So we can get rid of this first. Okay, cool. And we can get our static metadata that we have created in our homepage, in our page.tsx file, and we can cut this into our layout page. This is the root layout. And in this root layout, we can create a template for our title like this. Default is gonna be Explorer. If there is any title in our app, we can just export this default. We can just use this default one. And the template, we can use a string like this. And let's check if it works. Yeah, it works. As you can see, in the child root, we put our title in here. And with this approach, we don't have to put our brand name in every root. And also we have defined our default title. If there is no title, we can use this default one. Another important thing that we need to configure is the canonical URL, because they are so much important for SEO, right? So we can configure this canonical URL in our generate metadata async function. In this function, we return this object, right? In this object, we can use this alternates key. And in this key, we can use canonical like this. And we need to put our, we need to put our URL. We can get our final URL from here. And also we need to put this post and post.slug like this. Okay, let's check if we have this canonical URL in our source code. Yeah, we have. We created this canonical URL like this because it needs to be absolute URL. You cannot use your slug, just your slug in here. But there's a better way to create this canonical URL as absolute URL. You don't need to use this URL in every canonical you define. In our root layout, we can create base metadata base like this. And for this key, we can use a new URL and we can put our URL into this function. Okay, cool. Now, in our post page, in our generate metadata function, we can get rid of this And let's refresh this page and check if we have the right canonical URL. Yeah, it's still right. It's still right. Okay, cool. Also, in this object, you can create your languages like this. If you have any language other than your base language, you can provide like this. Oops, sorry. This is gonna be like that. And let's check again if we have these alternate URLs in our source code. Yep. Link, rel, alternate, reflang, and us. And it has this right absolute URL. Okay, very cool. Now we can move on to another features of this generate metadata function. There are a bunch of cool features that you can use for your project with this generate metadata function. For example, you can create your Opengraph object like this, but we will cover this part in the later sections of this video. And also you can create your Robots.txt file with this object, and again we will cover this later. You can set your theme color, your manifest, your Twitter card. It's a very easy solution for creating Twitter cards like this. You can put your post.title, and you can put your post description like this, and you can change your Twitter name like this. And also we will cover how we can create this Opengraph image statically and dynamically in the later. And also there's another cool feature that you can use for verification. If you are in SEO game, you may already know that you need to verify your website with Google, right? So you can create this verification object in your metadata, but we can create this in our root layout since we don't need to pass this verification ID in every root, right? So verification like this, and we can say Google, and you can put your verification ID in here like this. And also you can, if you have a web app, Apple web app, you can use this object as well. You can use this Alternates object, which is already covered. And also you can set your category or etc. And you can use this other object to create custom metadata for your application. For example, you can set an ID for the third-party application for your app. Okay, cool. I think we have covered all important things in this metadata API, and also we will cover the Opengraph and the Robots.txt features in the next section. Now let's check how we can create robots file. the robots.txt file. There are two approaches to create this file, and first one is the static one. You can just copy this text, and in your app directory you can create a file called robots.txt, like this, and you can copy this text from documentation and you can change the sitemap with your own sitemap. This is the first approach. But if you want to run some kind of custom logic in your robots.txt file, you can generate this robots file as well, like this. In your app directory, you need to create another file, robots.ts, like this, and you can copy this function from the documentation. If you want to some custom logic in your function, you can create this logic. For example, we can get sitemap from CMS, maybe. Yeah, you can just fetch your sitemap and put this sitemap into your robots.txt file, like this. Okay, cool. We don't need this robots.ts file in our application. We can just use the static one. And also there's another option in Metadata API. Let me show you. Where was it? Theme color, icons, robots. Yeah, here. So in your Metadata API, you can set rules per the particular route. I mean that sometimes you may want to no index some particular routes, which means let's assume that you have a route called settings for the account settings, and you don't want to index this page on Google. So you can return this robots object in your metadata, and you can set a rule like this: Googlebot index false, maybe. Let's try this in our categories. Okay, and in here we can say robots, yeah, like this, and index false, follow true, maybe, and no cache true. Good. So let's check if it creates this output. I will refresh my page and check the source code, and I will search for no index, and as you can see in our category page we have this meta tag which contains this content: no index, follow, and no cache. This is great because you have to used to set those rules manually before Next.js 13, but with the latest features you can set this custom rules for particular routes, right? This is great. Okay, cool. Now we can close this one. Okay, cool. Let's move on to sitemap part. I think this is the most important part for SEO. We have the same methods for sitemaps as well. We have the static one and the dynamic one. Let's start with the static one, since it's pretty easy. You just need to copy this sitemap, or you can just copy your own sitemap, and you can create a new file in your app directory called sitemap.xml, like this. And you can paste your sitemap into this file, and you need to change those links and the dates. But I think this method is not great for the sites has dynamic generated content like blog posts or some kind of e-commerce websites, because after the build time you need to create new pages, right? You need to create new blog posts, new products, and etc. So you need to find a way to get those URLs from your database, from your CMS, and you need to put those links into your sitemap. So that's why you must create the sitemap dynamically. Okay, so let's check how we can create this dynamic sitemap. First, we can get rid of this static one, and also we can create the dynamic one in the app directory as well, like this new file sitemap.ts. And in this file you need to export default function sitemap, like this. And in this function you can just simply return an array which contains your URLs, like this, URL and the last modified date, like this. And for our application we can just, I need to get my base URL from the layout, like this. And also I can put this into a constant, like this. Yeah, cool. And I can put this into my object, because this object, this URL is for our homepage, but for the other page we need to create dynamically, right? Because we can create more categories or blog posts after we build this website. Okay, let's check how we can do that. So first we need to get all posts from CMS, right? And we need to make this an async function, because this will return a promise, right? Const posts equal await get all posts, like this. And const posts URLs like this. Maybe you can get this updated time from your CMS as well. And we need to put this, because sometimes there will be no posts, and also if there is no posts we need to return this empty array. Okay, cool. And let's get all categories from CMS, like this. And we can write the same logic for our categories as well. Yeah, cool. And finally we will return, these posts URLs and categories URLs in our array like this. We will spread all the objects in those arrays. Okay, cool. Now we can generate our sitemap like this. If we run yarn build, it will create a sitemap, as dynamic sitemap for us. Let's wait for the building process. Okie dokie, it's done. We can run yarn start, and in our application, in our website, we can go to sitemap.xml like this. And as you can see, we have all the links in our sitemap for our blog and also for our categories like this. It's very cool. You don't need to use another third-party library to create your sitemap. You can directly create in your app directory with the latest feature of Next.js 13. Next thing we will discuss is Opengraph images. How we can create those images with the new Next.js 13. For the static part, you can just simply create an image called Opengraph-image, and you can put this image into your app directory. As you can see, I already created my Opengraph image and put it into app directory. Let's check if it works. In our application, we can go to our source code and search for Opengraph image like this. And as you can see, Next.js put this meta tag with this content, which is created by Next.js 13. This is a valid Opengraph image for our website. Okay, cool. Now let's check how we can create this image dynamically with the new feature called image response. To create dynamic Opengraph image, all you need to do is create this opengraph-image.tsx file in the root that you want to create this Opengraph image. For example, in our post/slug dynamic root, I've already created this file, opengraph-image.tsx. And before diving into this code, let's check if it works. I will refresh this page and I will check the source code and search for Opengraph image. And as you can see, our image is here. So let's copy this link and paste into our browser to see our image. As you can see, it works. And all the data on this image is generated dynamically. Let me show you. In your async OG function, you can get your params as argument. And when you get your slug, you can get your post data and put this data into your image like that. So let's check another post. I will go to this post and check the source code again. Sorry. View page source and search for Opengraph like this. and I will copy this part and paste into my browser like that. And as you can see, our background image is changed, and also the title and the metadata is changed. So when you get your post, you can simply return a new image response in your function. But when you are styling those images, you cannot use all CSS styles. And also, to use Tailwind classes, you need to use this specific tag for Tailwind. You cannot use regular class name attribute. You need to use this TW. Okay? And also, you need to check this image response documentation page to understand what kind of CSS properties can be used in this function to style your image, because not every class name is available for this image response. Okay? And also, if you are getting error, please make sure you use this flex display property. Whenever I get error, I realize that I forgot to use this flex property, because everything needs to be flexed to render this image with your styles. Okay, cool. Now I guess we are ready, and we can run our page speed test again. Let's see if we catch the full score, the 100 score this time. Cool. I commit all changes to the GitHub and recreated this page on Vercel. So let's check if our sitemap is working. Sitemap.xml like this. And yeah, it works. We have created all dynamic URLs in our sitemap. Okay, cool. Now we can check the page speed score of this blog post. As you may remember, in the first section of this video, our page speed score was 77, right? So let's check again. Good. Our SEO score is 100, as well as our performance score. Great. I think this is so great, because on mobile, having these kind of scores get you in the first page of Google search results. Okay guys, thank you for watching. I hope that this is helpful for you, and if you find it helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also, if you have any question related this Next.js 13 and SEO, please put it into comments.